Yo guys, what's up? Zephyr. I'm just gonna be talking about Lords of the Fallen. I recently just beat Lords of the Fallen 2023. Not the 2020 or 2014 edition, not that one. That one was decent too, but the new Lords of the Fallen 2023 is very good. I actually was highly impressed by the indie game company that developed it. Maybe it's not an indie game company, but whatever the company it isn't FromSoft, right? But a lot of people tend to compare like FromSoft to other games, or like vice versa, compare this company to FromSoft. It's good to have like expectations, there's like a set format. Let's say if we're talking about Soulsborne games or Dark Souls style games or Soulsborne, there's expectations to have with these games, but it's important to realize that you don't evaluate all these conditions based on the company that made this, if that makes sense. So if you're comparing stuff to FromSoft and you're expecting the expectations to be so high, improvements, innovations, boss fights, really good, all this stuff, no glitches, no bugs, performance issues. Um, a lot of people tend to look at it that way, but people need to realize indie game companies have a lot less money to work with, and they sometimes have to go through like burn stages where like they you know there's a lot of burn stages in all companies. But what I mean by burn stages is like, because of the lack of funding or lack of money to produce a game, it's just hard, because of the lack of money. But yeah, I'm just doing a quick review on Lords of the Fallen, just speaking my mind, one take as always, no edits here in this business. But so I only wrote down a couple things that I didn't really like, but like I said, you have to be open mind, open soul when you're playing these type of games, and not having too high of an expectations. You could look into reviews, but it's the best way to review a game is by playing it yourself. you know l- um there is a game called Last of Us 2 Part 2, or Last of Us 1 Part 2. I forgot what the naming structure is, but that game got review bombed because there was like some sort of, initial release of data. Someone hacked, Naughty Dog and whatnot, and then people were review bombing it, saying the ending was terrible. But Last of Us is a very good game. It's just that they tried to innovate. People didn't like it, but I actually was a big fan of it. You got to see both sides of the characters. For example, Abby and Ellie, right? But anyways, let's stop talking about that. But you know what I'm saying is, don't read too into reviews. Look at stuff, similarities and stuff, pay attention to some of the stuff that you care about, but don't let it to, overturn your idea on buying a game. But yeah, so this is some of the things I wrote down for Last of Us, or Lords of the Fallen, I mean, 2023. um some of the times when I was fighting opponents or enemies, the hitboxes felt really weird with some of the weapons. Some of the swords felt like really bad, but I did really enjoy the heavy strikes, and the charged heavies. They felt really good, especially with the build that I went, which is not really any spoilers. I'm not going to be talking about any bosses, like specifically what they do and stuff, but I was using grand hammers, and when you charge the R2, it slams, and sometimes it knocks down certain opponents, sometimes it doesn't, but it does a lot of poise damage or stagger damage, as some would call it. And yeah, so yeah, I really enjoyed the game, but yeah, hitboxes sometimes felt iffy and whatnot, you know, but it is what it is. Locked targeting, so when you press R3, so you press down on the Joy-Cons to select a target on the whatever's inside your vicinity of vision. um Sometimes there's like a weird condition where like you're trying to target an enemy, but it's like hugging a wall, or it's like hugging a door. You For those that understand like computer logic and like how these things are programmed, and like what the 3D space looks like, you would understand why some of this stuff like may interfere. But these aren't like big things that annoyed me. It's just like small stuff, nitpicky, I guess you could call it. But yeah, so lock targeting can be awful sometimes. I wrote near doors or big doors, and when running away. Oh yeah, when you're running let's say I'm running towards the wall behind me, right? So I'm facing this way, right? I'm facing this way. I'm running towards it, but my screen is facing that way. So my character is running towards the wall, but I'm facing the camera towards the enemy. You can't target for some reason. Maybe I just had issues with certain enemy types. I don't know. That was something that was weird. You know, maybe it's design mechanics because your character needs to see the opponent to lock on, if that makes sense. Some yeah. Oh, and picking up souls is really annoying. Usually it's very fluid. You just, when you die, you leave a corpse or you leave a soul symbol or something, a soul reposit, you know, and especially if you're fighting bosses, it can be really annoying. I don't know if they patched it. It seemed like it was a bit better and faster, but maybe, you know, placebo. But yeah, sometimes when fighting enemies or bosses and you die and you try and recover your souls, you have to go through this animation where your hand hovers and you're trying to like spam circle or whatever button you're using, whatever controller you're using. Um, you can't dodge, you're limited, you're locked into an animation to grab these souls. I understand the purpose of it, but I'd rather just, not have that. It's interesting, it's a mechanic that is added to, give a vision, it's like you could it's like for example digging, right? You can go through the motion of digging or you can just do like a second of shoveling and then you grab the items type of thing, which you see in typical games. But yeah, there's really nothing else that I had issues with. People say the performance was bad, but like I'm running on a 1080 Ti and i7 8700K, which isn't overclocked, even though my CPU is, a overclocking type of CPU. I thought performance was all right. You know, for people that have really good PCs, I'm sure the game would run better. Maybe not. Right, right. You have to have your expectations a bit lower with bugs. I didn't actually experience too many bugs. Um, I did some PvP in Lords of the Fallen. I actually won all my PvPs. I came close to dying the second time, and first time I never got touched because I'm a god gamer. What can I say? But yeah. Anything else that I want to talk about? I like the designs of the beacons. This might be spoilers. I don't know if that's but anyways, the lights that go into the sky, you see it in the trailer, but yeah, the atmosphere in the game felt really good. There's parts where the game's really annoying, and there's certain enemy types that just are just brutal, which they could knock you off ledges and stuff. But that's a good thing. I do like that. That nuisance part of it. People, I remember reading reviews talking about the distance of like going to a boss from a checkpoint or a vestige point as they're called in this game. I never had an issue with it. I think whoever was saying the checkpoints are terrible and all this stuff is just they don't realize like there's supposed to be some sort of distance. You don't want to like spawn super close to something. I think it was perfect. I think it did a really good job. There's shortcuts, there's secret shortcuts in the game, and yeah, like really good. A good variety of, seasons, as I like to call it. You have like this darker autumnish season, like summer areas. I think the game is mostly like autumn vibes, autumn, winter, but I do like it when there's a different variety of seasons displayed through the world. Um, what else? Yeah, the game just looks really good. I'm sure if I had a better PC, it would look even better. But yeah, you gotta, be a bit lower on the expectations of performance. If you or someone has a bad PC, if you have a good PC and you're someone that really hates performance issues, it's an indie game company or like slightly above an indie game company. Because last time they made a game was 10 years ago, I think, or something like that. 9 years ago, the company that made Lords of the Fallen. But yeah, Anything else? Boss fights. I would say most of them felt pretty good, you know, in the same structure as like Dark Souls 2. The game really felt like Dark Souls 3 to me. I don't know why. The hub, the hub when you're the hub is pretty the term hub is where the NPCs are, you know, to craft your weapons, to buy, talk to NPCs, shop, you know, quest lines and all the stuff, give stuff like that. I do like it. It gave me a very interesting like vibe. It gave me a very close resemblance to Dark Souls 3. So if you're someone that likes Dark Souls 3, I highly, highly recommend Lords of the Fallen. If you're willing to pay the price with some performance issues, bugs, blah, 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 which you won't run into many of, I highly recommend Lords of the Fallen. And, you know, I feel like I've shared a lot. I'm not going to talk about the endings. You know, if you want to, you know, dig through, you know, YouTube and watch the endings, there's three types. I'll say that for those that, you know, that might be spoilers. I don't know what is condition or considered a spoiler. But yeah, there's three endings. Um, oh, and I forgot to talk about there's two types of environments or like spaces, I guess you could describe them as. You have the world of the living, which is Axiom, and then you have the world of the dead, which is Umbral. And these two worlds, you can either go forcefully from Axiom into Umbral through doing, you know, like a transition skill or whatever I call it, or mechanic, or when you die, when you die once, you have another chance to, you know, redeem yourself and fight the bosses. It's really interesting because you typically, when you play like Soulsborne games, um you're pretty much like, you die once, you got to run back and whatnot. But you know, it's an interesting take on a Soulsborne game by giving you like an extra life in a way. I think it's good because a lot of games tend to like use the same structure, but they don't innovate on these structures. So I'm very like proud for the company that made Lords of the Fallen for innovating on the stuff, on the death portion of stuff. But yeah, I'm still iffy about it, but it's a new look on it is pretty much what I'm saying. You know, I don't hate it, but it's interesting, you know. It's like middle ground for me, because most people, they want to just die once, and it's like, you know, deathless, I guess, boss fights. But then, you know, it creates an interesting new type of sense of, you know, stress in a way, right? Who knows if Lords of the Fallen 2 ever comes out? I hope they keep this Axiom Umbral logic or like systems in the future. I do like it though for that game. From for the from soft games, they should stick to just one death, you know. But for Lords of the Fallen's company, the two death rule is pretty good. Good, but yeah. Anything else I want to say real quickly before ending this video? No. I was talking about boss fights. You know, they all felt like good. You know, some felt difficult, some felt. I think the art styles on the bosses look sick. But yeah, like I said, three endings. I'm not gonna talk about any of them. I only did one of them. I'm typically a person that plays a game once, and maybe, you know, in a couple years down the road I'll play it again. But yeah. What would I give the rating for Lords of the Fallen? I would probably give it a strong 8.5. A strong 8.5. But yeah, that's pretty much my whole video on Lords of the Fallen. Thank you guys for watching as always. Take care and bye bye. And as always, embrace your dreams. Bye.